Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good.
Ready for spring break? Yeah, Jessica, you're looking tired. What's going on?
I have a cold, so it's kicking my butt.
Oh no, I'm so sad for you. That's awful. Bad timing too. All right, welcome, welcome. I know you're all feeling it, right? The stress, the pressure, maybe you're sick, tired, maybe you're sick and tired, and really it's not anything else. But you can do it. I promise you. You know, you got 4 hard days, and then, I mean, hold on. Sorry, had to sneeze. Didn't want to kill your eardrums with my sneeze because it would have. Allergies are awful. I went on a hike yesterday and I had just a vicious headache when I got home. I think it was a combo of the weather and like the sun, but also the allergies. Ever since that windy day last week, right? That was the worst. Okay, so unless you have classes on Friday, does anyone have classes on Friday? No, so 4 hard days, right? You can do it. You can do it. Because I can too. um, and then we have spring break, 1 week, yes? And then, as far as I know, you're all joining me for 257. I will look at my roster and make sure you're all registered. If there's somebody who's not registered, please let me know so I can intervene if I can to get you registered. Or if you decided not to take it, no pressure, because you could take it in the fall. You could take it not with me over the summer, but at other schools, they do offer a summer session. I don't know if they're online or what, but you could check that out. What else was I going to tell you? I had some visitors about some of the oral exam questions, which is a good idea. I had some emails about them. Hopefully my email explanation was helpful-ish. I don't know. If it wasn't, maybe come see me. You know, even if you send me an email and you say, can we just log on for a couple minutes, that would be fine. I have 5 finals today. So wish those people luck. I'm sure you're like, wait, who would sign up for Monday? That's okay. Some people want to get it over with, right? I don't think it's a bad idea. I'd probably signed up for Monday as well. I do want to do a Mindfulness Monday activity, so we'll do that first. I'm going to share my screen. If you want to turn your camera off during this mindfulness exercise, you totally can. So no pressure there. Might need to wait another minute before everybody, because I don't want the ding dong happening when we're trying to do our exercise. I'm guessing if you're struggling with your homework, the homework you're struggling with is the proportional reasoning homework. Does that sound true or false? So while we're waiting for a couple more people to log on, I will check my roster for spring. I mean, not for spring, for after spring break, and let you know if you're registered or not registered. And then if you have other questions, I can answer other questions while we're waiting for everybody to get here. So if you're curious to see if you're registered, you can type it in the chat. I'm already checking one, but I just typed the wrong password. I just had to change my password, so now it's like annoying because I typed the wrong one in every time. All right, let's see. 257. I have essay. Karina, McKenna, Alyssa, Michaela, Sydney, Jessica, Amanda, Tyler, Madison, Bethel, Hannah, Sarah, Brianna, Vanessa, Kelsey, Betty, Elena, and Sunita. Anyone I didn't call your name that you thought you were registered, but you're not now? All right, so for 257, just a preview, it's going to be similar, but it's a little bit different. So the things you need is we will do another notebook. You can do it electronic, you can do it on paper. So if you need, if you like the paper one and you need to buy another notebook, you might want to do that before we start. And then you're also going to need like a ruler. Hopefully you have one at home. A protractor. Does everybody know what a protractor looks like? Let me see if I have one. I have about 50, but they all seem to walk away. Where are my protractors? That's very weird. A protractor looks like a half circle. Guess I haven't used mine yet for 257 this semester. That's very weird. You can find them at a dollar store usually. That is so weird why I can't find my protractor. I must have shoved it in a box. It should be sitting right here. I'll show you what a protractor looks like. All right. So this is what a protractor looks like. Yes. This one is at Staples and it's $1.49 at Staples. So which I would say you should be able to get it at Target, the dollar store, you know, wherever you want. Okay, so let's do our mindfulness activity. I'm gonna have to stop sharing because I don't think I shared my sound. And if you need to turn off, or if you want to turn off your camera for this part, you totally can. Okay, so it's just 3 minutes.
Close your eyes and rest your hands on your knees. Bring your attention to the touch of your body on your seat. Feel the weight of your body on your chair or cushion. Make sure that your back is straight and that you're comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. While you're breathing deeply, relax your shoulders, your stomach muscles, the muscles in your face, your hands, and your legs. Let go of all the tightness in your body. Now bring your attention back to your breath. Notice what it feels like as it enters through your nose, goes down through your throat, filling your lungs, and back out through your nose. Notice your stomach and chest rise and fall each time you breathe in and each time you breathe out. And just allow your breathing to be natural and relaxed. Now bring your attention to the feeling of your breath in your nose. Feel your breath as it comes in and goes out. Just focus on this sensation, paying attention to each time you breathe in and each time you breathe out. As you inhale, maybe your breath feels cool. And as you exhale, maybe it feels a little warmer. When your mind wanders, or if you become distracted, just notice what's going on in your head, and then gently bring your attention back to your breath, going in and out. Focus on the feeling of your breath and allow thoughts and feelings to come and go in the background. Now gently bring your attention back to the touch of your body on your seat and open your eyes.
All right. So I love that one because her voice is so calming. I don't know if you guys thought that, but That, like, you could fall asleep to that. Yeah. So it's very calming. The other reason I like it is because she says, in case you become distracted. And every time, I don't know how many times I've listened to that video, but I'm telling you, every time when she says that, I'm like, ooh, I was distracted. I'm like thinking about my shopping list or something totally unrelated. So I like that she brings that up because she doesn't say, oh, you're terrible at meditating, or you might as well quit now, or whatever. She's just like, just bring it back. So I like that. I appreciate it. Some of you are at a very, very high level of anxiety right now. I know that, right? You've got to control it somehow, because that part of your brain is also part of the brain that solves your problems. So if it's busy being worried, it can't help you. Okay. So you've got to practice some of these things to really focus, right? And understand and make sure that you can keep calm. The bottom line is you're fine. It is literally just a test. It's going to be a few hard days and then you're going to be fine. It's not a measure of what kind of teacher you're going to be, right? It's not a measure of what kind of person you are. It's none of those things. It is simply a test. Okay. So really, 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 I want everyone to do well. Now, I can't just go, well, then perfect, everybody gets 100, right? Because I am a teacher and an educator, and I want you to be ready when you have to teach. But that being said, I'm also not looking to catch you in something and go, haha, she made a mistake, right? Or haha, I got him. Like, that's not the game we're playing, right? Why I became a teacher and why I'm pretty sure you're becoming a teacher is to help students learn and achieve their goals, right? So that's my same goal for you. So don't forget that or get confused or get yourself all worked up, okay? We can get through this, I promise. So that being said, I know there's really one question that we haven't talked about because it's a decimal question on your oral exam question. And I know some of you are like, wait, was that a typo? Is that really a decimal point? And it wasn't just one of you, right? There's a few of you, so no worries. It is a decimal point. I think it's question, I just had it up. Let me look. My computer, I love how all of you are sending me all of these things that your computer is being bad or whatever, because guess what? Mine is doing the same. So it's super fun. It's question 2. So the question is, it's 503, then there's a comma, and then a 620, and then, sorry, I just had to let someone in, so it disappeared. And then a decimal point, and then a 078. So that's the number that's on there, 503, comma, 620, period, 078. Okay. So just in case you were concerned you weren't reading that correctly, like the way it's printed on the paper. Okay. The other thing is, I know you have some homework that's tonight. By the way, I was grading. I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if a lot of you have saved your Flipgrid till today, your responses, because it's due by tonight, right? Your Biking to Bernie's Flipgrid. But I graded anyone who had their 2 videos already posted, like their response videos. I graded, like I'm pretty sure I graded Tristan's, McKenna's, Sunita's, maybe that was it. I can't remember. But anyway, I'm trying to grade as quickly as I can. So if I find mistakes, you can see those before you have your oral midterm with me. Okay. So if you have your oral midterm soon and you want me to look at something, just send me a message. Okay. So I'm trying to stay as up to date as I can on all of those things. That being said, you have a homework assignment due tonight that nobody asked me about yet, but I feel like somebody is going to have a question on this. So I'm just going to show it to you. And you guys tell me if you were doing it. This homework this proportional reasoning homework?
You made
Did
that due tomorrow, remember?
Oh, yeah, not till tomorrow. Oh, good. No wonder nobody had done it yet. I feel better now. But is there anyone that's killing anyone? Like, is there a problem that you're like, I have no idea what's happening on this problem? And if you haven't looked at it yet, no worries. Just know that I'm aware that some of them might be troubling to you. Anyone? No, you got them all? How about letter B? Letter B is usually a problem. Let's just do B. So read through B. It's on the screen. Sam wishes to contribute a total of $2,500 to charity A and charity B in the ratio of 2 to 3 respectively. How many dollars should Sam contribute to charity B? I'll just give you a minute to think about it. I drew a picture. I know you're shocked. All right. So how'd you do? Some of you were just looking at me the whole time, so I don't know if you were doing the problem, if you already had it done, if you were stumped. I don't know what was going on there. So let me know, anyone who knows the answer or thinks they know the answer, or what do you think?
I got that Sam should contribute $1,500 to charity.
And I got $1,000 to charity A.
And how'd you get that, Hannah?
I did it a couple different ways. Do you have a preference as to which one I explain?
Nope.
Okay,
Whichever one you liked the best.
Well, I like the constant multiple the best. So we have a ratio of 2 to 3, with the 3 being the part that goes to charity B. So to create a ratio of how much goes to charity B versus the total, I put 3 over 5. And then I multiplied that by the total that he has, which is 2,500, to get 1,500.
Like this?
Yeah. But
Okay.
like with labels, so like 3 to charity B, 5 total times 2,500 total equals 1,500 to charity B.
Nice, because those units would simplify and you end up with just dollars to charity B.
Yeah.
Nice. So any questions on where the 5 came from for Hannah? Is anyone confused? Yeah. Can you explain the 5, Hannah?
Yeah. So if Sam's making one contribution and he's giving 2 parts to charity A and 3 parts to charity B, he has 5 total parts. So does that make sense?
Sounds like a picture to me.
Yeah, the
Just
picture is
FYI, you could do any picture you want. This is the picture I started with. I started with a picture like this. And I said, okay, there's 2 pieces that go to A, there's 3 pieces that go to B. There must be 5 pieces altogether. And then I just took 2,500 divided by 5, because that seemed like easy math, right? And I got $500. So I put 500 in each one of these boxes, since I knew they were all the same size. And then I knew that 3 copies of 500 was $1,500. So I did it very different than Hannah, but we still get the same answer. You could just do one big rectangle if you want, right? And say, okay, these 2 parts go to A, these 3 parts go to B, and my total is 2,500. So pictures are very helpful. I know you still don't believe me because you're not doing them. Because I would bet if this assignment was already due, most people wouldn't have any pictures on them, right? It's not bad. I'm just saying you guys got to really open your brains a little bit more and say, okay, I'm really going to try to draw a picture, especially when I'm stumped or when I get a weird answer that I'm not sure of. Maybe a picture could help. You could just set up a proportion, right? This is not number letter C. This is just continued. 3 to 5, and this would be 3 charity B to total is how many dollars to charity B out of $2,500. And then you could choose to do scaling if you wanted to. You could do cross products if you wanted to, right? I think that unit rate or, would be harder in this case, right? So but you do it any way you want. Did that help some of you? You're like, yes, because I haven't even looked at this sheet yet, which is fine. No worries. F is the same. I just did B, so now you can do F. You just have to be careful because is your 2 to 3, what is your 2 to 3 labeling? So it's 2 that are attending compared to 3 total. So it's actually a little bit easier, right? Because it's not 3 not attending. So there's really only 3 boxes total. Okay. All right, now I think you can do that one. Now let's go to what is a decimal. Some of you are like, oh, thank goodness, we're done with fractions, right? Well, we're not, just in case you're wondering, because decimals are just a different way to write fractions, right? So no worries there. And it says, in fact, each place value of a decimal represents a different fraction whose denominator is a power of 10. So remember when we were in whole numbers and we had 2, 3, 4, if we had it written like that, that was 234 because in expanded notation, it's 2 times 100 plus 3 times 10 plus 4 times 1. Now this decimal, a 0 with a decimal point and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 can be written like 2 times 1/10 plus 3 times 100th plus 4 times 1,000, because notice the 2 is in the 10th place, the 3 is in the 100th place, and the 4 is in the 1,000th place. Yeah? So it follows the same rules as our whole numbers did. So what we're going to talk about is how we read them and how we write them. And if you really practice it, you will really help yourself and your student. So when we read a decimal, we read the number to the right of the decimal point and use the place value of the rightmost digit. So if there's a whole number part in front of the decimal point, we read it from left to right and we insert the word "and" for the decimal. So for example, if I see a 0 and then a decimal point and a 7, I never, ever, ever call that 0.7, because points are in geometry, just in case you're wondering, right? So if I had a list on my wall, if I was in a decimal unit, one of my words that my students would not be able to use is point. They only use the word point when we're doing our geometry unit, okay? So I would read this as 7/10. And the reason I'd read it as 7/10 is because now I'm reinforcing place value and I'm connecting it to fractions. Doesn't 7/10 sound just like a fraction? 7/10. Yeah, it does. That's because fractions and decimals should be read the same because they're the same. Okay. And the next one I would read as 2300. Notice if the decimal point wasn't there, I would just read it as 23. So adding the decimal point, I still read it as 23, but now wherever it ends in the hundredth place. So I read it as 2300. And the next one has a whole number part and a fraction part or a decimal part. So I read it as 6 and 40 hundredths. 6 and 40 hundredths. So questions on that? Did any of you ever struggle rounding decimals? Any of you ever have trouble when you were rounding decimals? No, you all did perfect always when you learned rounding decimals. I have a feeling some of you struggled. Yeah. So, and one of the reasons you struggled is because you couldn't remember the names of the place values to the right of the decimal point, right? Well, why didn't you ever remember them? Because we never called them that, right? Your teacher just kept saying things like 0.23. So you didn't know the 3 was in the hundredth place because she never said those words, or he never said those words. So if we start reading them mathematically, we're helping our students understand it. I did not believe this. I did not. I thought, just memorize the place values, get over it, right? And then I saw teachers in action doing this in elementary school, and I was dumbfounded by the level of understandings that the students had. Students were dividing decimals without moving the decimal point because they understood place value, and they did it because their fraction and decimal connection was so strong. So try it. It's going to be hard for you at first, right, to read numbers mathematically, but do it. So let's try these. Think about how you would read each one of these. I'll give you about 30 seconds. You don't have to write it down. You can, but then I'm just going to call on you randomly and see if we can read these correctly. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to think. All right, anyone volunteering to read the first one? The first one's kind of nice because I already read it. Hannah, I'm ready.
I got 234 thousandths.
Can you say it one more time?
234 thousandths.
Very nice. You made one change from the first time you read it to the second time you read it. What was the change you made? Did you hear it, anyone?
Did I say and?
You did. The first time you said 234. So be very careful. We do it subconsciously because we're just used to speaking that way. So this first one would be 234 thousandths, and you read it perfectly the second time. So good job, Hannah. I don't think I can write that fast. So 234 thousandths. How about B? Who can do B?
I can do that one.
Go for it.
983 ten thousandths.
983 ten thousandths. Perfect. Excellent. This is new for us, right? You don't normally say it. So how about C? Tyler?
35 8/10.
35 8/10. Now we can say and, because we have a decimal point, we have a whole number part and a decimal point. So 35 8/10. Yeah. How about that last one? Betty put it in the chat. 7 4/100. Perfect. 7 4/100. Now, when you're doing your homework, try to read things mathematically like this. It's going to be hard for you at first. You're going to get into really bad habits. Now, let's say you're teaching 9th grade algebra, right? Or you're teaching 8th grade algebra, which is really a 9th grade course. Do you always have to say these numbers mathematically? You don't always have to. Once we get to high school, we start using this shorthand of saying point because it's really hard if you're reading it all the time. But I would say definitely through 7th grade, you will want to read these mathematically all the time. And sometimes even in high school, you'll have to take a step back and remind students if they're having the same problems with rounding over and over and over again, or fraction understanding. Oh, good, I wrote them already. Thank goodness, they're right there. Thank goodness. Okay, before we get to this, I want to show you a decimal handout, which I should have right here, hopefully. Oh man, okay, hold on. I thought that was clickable right there, but it's not. So 1 second. I have a handout that we're not really going to spend time on, but it's called What is a Decimal? And it's kind of a fun one that gives you good practice at this. So if you need more practice, you can take a look at this one. And I'll put it in our notebook right now. It just has pictures, and it's a great way to very, very first initially start this conversation. Sorry about that. I thought I already put it right here. Actually, I thought it was clickable on there, but it wasn't. This is the first one I emailed you. It's just loading slowly. So it has very similar explanation at the top, but right here, 2/10, and I write the decimal 2/10, and I read it both ways, 2/10. So if I look at the next one, this is broken into 10 pieces. So I would say this is 4/10, and I would write it like this. Okay. And then this would be 5/10, and I would write it like this. And then this one is 1/5. But as a decimal, what is 1/5 as a decimal?
It's 2/10.
It is 2/10. Now, what this worksheet is for you to notice, oh, look, if I compare it to these boxes right above it, and I split these all into tenths, then I would still have 2 sections colored. So this really is 2/10, and I could read this 2/10. And they both take up the same space. Same thing here, 2/5, that's 4/10. And it's a nice connection here. This is 1/2. Most kids know and they read 1/2, but they don't read it as 5/10, do they? How do they read that? How would you have read it until right now? 0.5. Michaela's like, yep, 0.5. That's how you would have read it. Now, do you see how when I read it as 5/10, it reinforces a picture in my head of now I have 5 things out of 10 things shaded, which brings me back to fractions and 1/2, so I can connect these. So if you notice, 1 and 3 really are showing the same amount. And I love how this worksheet doesn't have them all right together shaded, because they don't have to be. And then we have 1 and 5. And then we have 2 and 4. So it's funny because I stole this from another workbook, and the workbook in the teacher's edition had the answer written like this. It said, do you notice anything similar, or which questions were similar above? And it had something written like this. Sorry, I have to look. 1 equals 5. That's what it said. And then it said 2 equals 4. And then it said 3 equals 6. What's wrong with that? Why would I have a problem with what I just wrote? What just happened?
It's not explaining why.
Yep. Well, does 1 equal 5? No, 1 does not equal 5. Like, the number 1 and number 5 are representing the same values, but 1 equals 5? Like, I just lost half my class if I just did that. And some of you do that and you don't realize it. I was looking at some of your work, and those hard equal signs will get you. So be really, really careful. The time I see it most is on order of operations problems. You guys write those hard equal signs when they're not true. So be careful. Okay. So make sure you have labels. Same with on the rational number homework. Yeah, when the tower problem, you remember the tower problem? A lot of you wrote something like 6 equals 1/3. What? No, 6 does not equal 1/3. 6 cubes represented 1/3 of the tower. I'll give you that, but don't write 6 equals 1/3. You are freaking your students out, whether you know it or not. You're sending them a message that's not true. Hannah, what were you going to say? Hannah Miles.
So hyphens go in between like 4/10. I can't tell if there's hyphens there or not.
Yeah, I think you're technically supposed to, but I rarely put hyphens there. So
Okay,
it's
so
just
that's
like
not as
that. Remember that fraction conversation we had the other day? About
We've had a lot of fraction conversations.
what? Oh no, about do we hyphenate 2/5?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I said, I don't know, let's look it up. And I looked it up and it said yes,
Right.
you know. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm looking up, do we hyphenate? We definitely hyphenate like if it's between the 10s and the 1s, which we always did with whole numbers, right?
Yeah.
So if we say 23 hundredths, we are definitely going to hyphenate there.
The 23, but does
Right.
the hyphen go between the 3 and the hundredths as well?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm verifying for you.
Thanks.
I don't write it naturally. And then I was like, ooh, should I be putting it there? I love how you're like, I don't know. I couldn't tell if she did. fractions should be hyphenated when they're adjectives or words. Well, now we're in English and I don't even like that. So I'm going to say no
Okay,
right
cool.
now. And then if I
Thanks.
change my mind, I will let you know, but I don't think so. Okay. So now let's talk about our decimal booklet. And I don't know if we'll get all the way through this, but I will definitely post my key for you. And I really think this is helpful. If you couldn't print it out, that's okay. Just follow along with what I'm doing so you can kind of understand. If you could print it out, or if you accessed it electronically, you should be fine. So does everybody have the decimal booklet that I put in the email? If you don't, I can put it back up. Okay. If you don't, let me know. So if you're going to do this, it's really helpful if you have an orange highlighter, a blue highlighter, and a yellow highlighter. I don't know why I have an orange and a blue and not a yellow. Because what, oh, there it is. Okay. And when I do this activity in class, I provide highlighters to my students. I give them an orange, a yellow, and a blue to use. And they're actually in a bin. And my students know if they ever need them, they can just go get them. What's nice is if we're doing it electronically, I can change colors really easily, right, Anita? We love that. It's very helpful. Okay, so it says have those in a ruler ready, and you're going to complete this. So it says the square below represents the unit. So that's one whole, just like we've always talked about the unit before. It says using the tick marks, draw vertical lines to partition the unit into equal pieces. So in other words, you want to draw some lines. I can probably even make them straight if I do this, but maybe not. There we go. So I'm just going to draw, oh, for pickle's sake. Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. I must have touched my screen somewhere else. Okay. How come every time I click that, it does that? Sorry, annoying. It's not supposed to be doing that. It's jumping around on me. Okay, so my lines might not be straight because it's being mean to me. So these are perfectly straight lines. You can't tell. They look a little curvy on the screen, but I'm blaming technology. So we're going to draw all these lines. Normally in class, I would make my students use a ruler, and I would have a bin of rulers for them. Okay? So you draw all those lines in the box, and then it asks you questions right there. And the first question it asks you is, how many equal pieces did you partition the square into? See if I can put these more on the same screen. So what would you answer that question to be? It would be 10, right? We okay? Nice. And then if the square is the whole unit, what fraction number represents each piece?
One-tenth.
Very nice. Should be 1/10. And then it says, if the square is a whole unit, what word name represents each piece? You would write out 1/10. So this is just getting students to kind of think about how we divide a whole into parts, which is nice because it really looks very fraction-ish right now. Right? Okay. Then it says, okay, shade 3 of the equal parts with an orange highlighter. So of course you'd already have them divided, and you would shade it with an orange highlighter. And then it says what fraction is shaded. Let me see how fast I can do this. So what fraction number represents the shaded area?
Three-tenths.
Very nice, 3/10. And then what fraction number represents the area that's not shaded?
Seven-tenths.
7/10. Very nice. So far so good, right? And a lot of you are like, I thought we were doing decimals. I just still see a lot of fractions, right? There's a reason. There's a reason for this. Okay. So you do just see a lot of fractions. Now, the next part is now do it both ways, horizontally and vertically, and then answer all those questions. So if we divide these vertically and horizontally, and with kids, you have to give a lot of time for this activity, right? Because they struggle with using rulers and things like that. So if you want this activity to go faster, you'll want to do like a ruler practice the day before. So they already have that ruler warm up for you, right? Before they try this in a setting where you want them to answer questions. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes and I want you to answer all the questions on that next page. It goes A through F. Okay, A through F, where it says how many pieces did you partition the square into, if the square is the unit, what fraction number, and so on. So follow all of those directions. If you're just following along, you can at least do it on paper or answer the questions on paper. Okay, I'll give you about a minute. All right, you ready to start answering these? Okay, I switched to this view. It might be easier for you. So how many pieces did you partition the square into? I think Hannah answered in the chat, it's 100 pieces, right? Everybody okay with that? 10 by 10, so we get 100. Then it says, okay, if the big square is the unit, what fraction number represents each small square piece? So now we're just looking at the little squares. Very nice. I see it in the chat. 100th. And then hopefully you wrote 100th. Did anyone write anything different for the word name?
So first I put 100th like you have shown, but then I was wondering how come it wouldn't be 1/100th?
It could be either. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like when we say 1 copy of 1/3. This is 1 copy of 100th, right? So most of us just cut off that first part because we're like, if it was anything other than 100th, we would say it. So good question, McKenna. That's why I asked, because I wondered who had written there 1/100th, right? So yeah. Okay. Then it wanted you to shade some things. And this time it asked you to use a yellow highlighter. Did you notice that? And it asked you to shade 30 small yellow squares. Now, you didn't have to shade them like this. You could have shaded them however you wanted, right? I just chose to shade them like that. So what fraction represents the shaded area? Very nice. 30 over 100. Notice we're still talking fractions this whole time, right? This whole time we're just talking fractions. And then it says, compare the grid on the first page to the grid you have now. So the one where we shaded 3 orange strips, right? Because we shaded 3 out of 10. What do you notice? What did you write in that blank?
I wrote that each row represents 10.
Okay, each row represents 10.
Yes.
10 small squares.
I think so, because I saw like when the orange, the row was, I'm sorry, I think it's column.
Yeah, are you talking vertically? So each column?
Each column is 10.
Each column is 10 small squares.
Yes.
Okay, good. Anyone else write something?
The area that we shaded in orange is the same as the area that we shaded in yellow.
Yeah, areas are the same, right? The yellow area and the orange area are the same. You agree? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now here's the questions that sometimes get a little bit trickier. 1 orange is how many times as large as a yellow? What'd you put there?
I put 10 times as big.
Very nice. 10 times, perfect. And then what'd you put on the bottom one? 1 yellow is what part of an orange? So you would say 1 yellow is
1/10.
There you go, 1/10 of an orange. And notice we're like 2 pages into our decimal booklet and we haven't done decimals at all yet, right? That's fine. Here's where we're gonna start talking about decimals. And there's a reason that we used orange for our 10th and we're using yellow for our 100th. And then eventually we'll use blue for our 1000th, okay? So if I was gonna shade 6 out of 10 equal parts. So you see, here's my directions. 6 out of 10 equal parts. And it says use orange strips as the unit fraction. So in other words, I want to shade 6 orange strips. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know why I shade vertically. but I always do because I think we partitioned our square vertically first. So there are my 6 orange strips. And so my fraction number is 6/100. Sorry, 6/10. 6/10. And my word name is 6/10. And then it asks, how many yellow squares would that be? What would you write there? Everybody okay writing 60 in that spot? All right. Then it says now on this next one, and you have to make sure you're guiding your students to use the right color. This time it wants yellow, and it says it wants 40 squares. So, and kids, you're walking around the room when kids are doing this, right? And kids are shading them interestingly. Not all of them will shade it perfect like you did. Some kids are literally counting every square that they color. And they're going 1, 2, 3, 4. And then a kid next to him is going, dude, there's 10 in a row. Why aren't you just doing 10 at a time? Right? And that's fine. That's what you want to happen at your groups and your tables, right? And another kid's like, well, I wasn't sure, you know, and that's fine. Give them time to process it and make sense of it because it will help them. So now we're going to answer, okay, this is 40 yellow squares. This is 40 hundredths. And so we're going to write 40. By the way, a lot of you spell 40 wrong. It's not F-O-U-R-T-Y. It's just F-O-R-T-Y, just so you know. Oh, sorry, I just spelled that wrong because I was talking. Hundredths. And now here's where we're starting to make connections. How many orange strips is 40 yellow squares? You all with me or are you sleeping now? It's 4, right? All right. I know some of you are like, you are going so fast, right? Well, I was trying to get to this next page. Okay, that's where I was trying to get to so we could, then I can put you guys to work. So on this next page is when we're going to start putting things together. So now we're looking at, look at this. It says 3/10, which tenths would be orange, plus 8/100, which hundredths would be yellow. And I'm supposed to draw that in this picture. Well, 3/10 is going to be 3 of these orange strips. And then 8/100 is going to be 8 little squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And some of you are like, oh, darn it, I colored it wrong already. Right? And some of your students will do the same thing. If they color it wrong, it's fine. You know, just tell them to correct it. Some kids will get very frustrated. Colored pencils are much more forgiving than crayons or highlighters. Now, they make erasable highlighters. Did you know that? Yeah, it's true. But I usually don't use them in my classroom because they would cost too much, right? So if a kid makes a mistake, you might want to have a couple extra copies laying there if they want to trade out their page, right? Or if you want to, if they want to cut out a little part and glue it over theirs, that's totally fine. But remind them it's okay to make mistakes, right? We color them wrong. Okay. Okay, so now we're saying, okay, this is 8 orange. Oh, sorry. This is 3 orange. And 8 yellow. Now it says, what's our decimal? Well, you front loaded this exercise before this. You've talked to them about what tenths are, what the place values are, and all of these things. So if they start writing the decimal, if this is tenths, they should know the 3 goes in that first spot. because it's the 10th. And then the 8 goes in the second spot because it's the 100th. And you can have kids literally do this and color code every single part of this. So they know that the 3 is the 10th and the 8 is the 100th. Then you still want them to connect it to a fraction, 38/100. You will have kids go, but that's not simplified, right? Especially if they've had a teacher before you who's the simplifying queen. And you're like, you're right, it's not simplified. Could you simplify it? Have that conversation. And then after they simplify it, because what would they get if they did simplify it? 19/50. And then you go, yeah, but which one's easier to relate to decimals? Is the 19/50 easier, or is it the 38/100 that's easier? Ah, it's the 38/100. That's why I didn't tell you to simplify. You can simplify, they're equivalent, they're the same location on the number line, but since we're connecting to decimals, and we know that decimals are fractions with a power of 10 as the denominator, I like to keep it in my power of 10 as the denominator. And then your kids will be like, oh, okay, but I wrote 19/50, am I wrong? And you're like, no, you're not wrong, right? You're fine. Okay, and then the fraction word name, 30, this is where we'll hyphen 800. I keep writing that. Okay. Again, if you follow along with the directions, it says 57/100. Use both orange and yellow. So it doesn't just want you to use 57 yellow squares, right? It wants you to use 5 orange strips. Not 5, I think. And then 7 yellow. And some kid will color it wrong, and you're not gonna, kick them out of your class or be mad at them. You're gonna say, he's gonna say, I just thought it was easier if I just wrote them all in yellows, right? And you're gonna say, that's fine. It probably is easier to color them all yellow. But the reason we're doing them in orange and yellow is so you remember that that 5 is gonna go in the 10th spot. So 5 orange, 7 yellow. My decimal is 57/100. My fraction is 57/100. And my expanded form, this is new. So 5 times 1/10 plus 7 times 100. Why did I write them as fractions instead of decimal? Any idea?
You can say it correctly.
Yeah, and I want this strong connection between decimals and fractions. I want them to understand that better. And truthfully, when students write a multiplication sign as a dot, and then they write decimals with dots, they can't remember what dot is where and what means what. So I could have written an X here, but I really like the fraction connection. If you wrote it like this, that is by no means wrong. You'll see it in textbooks, you'll see it all over the place. I'm just trying to really reinforce that fraction connection.
So would those be, because to me that looks like mixed numbers. Are they like supposed to look like mixed numbers or just multiplying?
It's just multiplying. Do I put multiplication symbols between mixed numbers? When I write 5 and 1/10, do I put a multiplication symbol in there? No.
No.
Nope. And some teachers do like to use X's here for their multiplication. So if that helps you, you can do that. Some teachers also like to use the parentheses. So they would write it like this. Either way, doesn't matter. Whatever your preference is. And you might find in your classroom that one works better with students than another, or that you want to be consistent with what your textbook or your district or whatever is using. So you want to use that notation. All right. And then we have 7/10 is our next one. And you could work your way through there. And I know you could do the rest of those boxes there. Now, it keeps going, keeps going. This is a super important part of this packet. Do you see this one? And I have students who do this. Like I said, they will highlight each and every part. It's a great strategy. So this would be orange. This would be yellow. Now, this is an interesting one. So this would be orange, and this would be yellow, and students are like, but it's a 0. Do I have to color it? Well, you're not going to color anything if it's a 0, but look at the difference between that and this. These are very purposefully chosen. Do you see the difference between number 7 and number 8? How many kids do you think color it wrong? At least one in your class is going to color it wrong, right? Because they're going to read that 60 and they're going to be like, oh, what do I color? Well, you could color, it doesn't matter if they use orange or if they use yellow, as long as they have 60 colored and they understand. On this second one, it's really imperative that they only color 6 boxes, right? And so it's probably really important that they color these yellow. They could color 7s yellow as well if they want, but they should not be coloring number 8 in orange. Okay, because that's going to confuse them. And then this reinforces the difference between, okay, especially in word name, this is 60/100th, and this one's only 6/100th. And when they get that visual, you're leading them to comparing decimal. Yeah, which one's larger? 60/100th, or how about this? Has anyone showed you this before? You give this to kids and you ask them which one is bigger. And some kids will say this one is bigger. And you'll ask them why, and here's their reasoning. It's longer. It has more digits, so it must be bigger. Because that's true with whole numbers, right? The more digits I have with whole numbers, the bigger my number is. But that's not true with decimal. And so seeing this will show them, oh, when I make my place values match, I have 60 yellow squares. Here I only have 6 yellow squares. So then I can tell 60 yellow squares is bigger than 6 yellow squares, right? Okay. I know I'm moving quickly through this, but I just wanted to get you to this last
Do you
page.
have a quick question?
I'm ready. I'm in.
On the other pages, it was saying like expanded form. What do they mean by that?
It's this.
Oh, okay.
When I break it down. Yep. And good question there, because when we get to this page, when we do expanded form for this one, for example, look at this number right here. Let me color these correctly. And then our thousands place is going to be blue, just so you know. So now we're finally to the blue. So does any brave soul want to read that decimal for me mathematically? on number 2 right here? How would you read that
603
one?
thousandths.
603 thousandths. Very nice. No and, right? There's no and in there. Now, when you color it, and this is why I'm going to do expanded form like Amanda just asked in just 1 second. When you color it, I want 6/10. So I'm going to shade 6 of these columns. There's my 6/10. I'm not shading any small yellow squares. Let me explain this blue part. Do you see that it says it's taking this tiny little square and it's breaking that square into 10 pieces? So it's saying it zoomed in into this tiny square and it broke it into 10 pieces. So, and we want to shade 3 of those pieces. So that's inside this one little tiny square. So when we do expanded form on this one, we already have the decimal number. It's right there. Fraction form 603 thousandths. In a place value chart, this is what it would look like. And then expanded form, 6 times 1/10 plus 0 times 100th plus 3 times 1,000. A lot of people ask, do I need the 0 there? Do I need the 0 there in my expanded form? What do you think?
You don't need it because it's a 0, but to help kids see that there's still something there, you should put it.
Exactly. You should keep it because it acts as a placeholder for students. Remember when you guys started getting really confused in our B2 candy factory? When you were leaving off your zeros in the middle there? That's what was happening. That's exactly what will happen with your students if they're not careful and they count every place value. So very nice. So now I think you can see kind of how this all works together. The reason we did this and we spent so long on this is these are essential building blocks for connecting fractions with decimals for what we're going to do tomorrow when we start adding and subtracting with decimals and multiplying and dividing with decimals. Once kids use these highlighters over and over and over again, it connects in their brain. If you've never thought about it before, there's just one more there too. And we didn't finish the whole thing, but I think you get the idea. When you do this, once we start with addition, some of you are going into special education, correct? Yeah. So in special education, lots of research has been done on color coding things for students, and it helps students. What you do in a special education classroom helps in a regular ed classroom, right? So all of these things that you're doing will help immensely. If you take the place value chart, I'm going to go back to my slides so you can see this. I just have it all worked through here. Do you see what I did right here? Here's a place value chart. And it's labeled, tenths are in orange, hundredths are in yellow, thousandths are in blue. If you connect that with your students, when you ask them questions like, now round this to the nearest hundredth, some kid in your class is really going to say, oh, do you mean the yellow one? And your paper's not even colored. And you'll be like, yeah, the yellow one, right? That's the hundredth place. They will have made a connection with the color and the location. So that's why your model is very helpful and specific. Okay. So that's it. We do need to talk about rounding, ordering, and everything, but we'll warm up with that tomorrow because I think you'll be okay with those. But once we do this orange, yellow, blue, our activity helps a lot. Now, I know you're like, wait, we have assignments this week? Are you kidding me? What is this woman's problem? Okay, so the first one, wait, let me talk this one first. Let me go here. This one, We're doing in class. Yes, we're doing in class. So you don't have to worry about that one. This is in class. This one we should do in class. And hopefully we'll at least do some of these in class. So this is the only one right here that you'll need to do out of class. Here's the good news. Guess what I let you use on that packet? A calculator. And it's very, very helpful, okay? And we can talk about that packet, and I'm going to give you the key, okay, to that packet. So it's not something that's going to, you know, overwhelm you, but it's a long packet, okay? But don't be stressed out about that because everything else we're going to do in class, okay? All right. So today was kind of boring because I talked way too much and you guys talked not at all. But that's okay because I wanted to make sure you have a strong foundation for what you need for the final. And I'm going to put an exit ticket in the chat. And then some of you might have questions. So that's why I wanted to reserve some time at the end before it's 1:30 and you guys still have questions. So there's your exit ticket and let me know what you need.